On January 15th, a shocking incident took place in the Kashmir Press Club. A group of journalists, allegedly escorted by police and CRPF personnel, barged into the Kashmir Press Club and took control of the club. In what is being called as an illegal coup at the press club, the new faction overthrew the old management and took over the affairs of the press club. Since then, the Press Club of India, the Editors Guild of India, and various bodies have expressed their concerns over the armed takeover of the Kashmir Press Club by a self-declared group of people. They have called it a manifestation of the continuing trend to smother press freedom in Kashmir. In this podcast, I'm talking to the key people involved in this story. First, I'm going to speak to Shuja ul Haq, who is a senior journalist in Kashmir, and he is also the ousted president of the Kashmir Press Club. Then I will speak to the man who led the coup, Saleem Pandit, another senior journalist in Kashmir. He was also the founding president of the Kashmir Press Club. Towards the end, we will get a word from Sanjay Kapoor, senior journalist and the secretary of the Editors Guild of India, on what is being said by both these warring factions. In the course of this podcast, we will try to get some crucial answers on several key questions. Why did the new faction stage the takeover? What role did the government have to play in this entire takeover saga? Why did the Kashmir administration turn against the management of the Kashmir Press Club? Now that the press club has been locked by the government, will elections take place? If yes, then which of the warring factions will conduct the elections? And above all, we will try to answer the question on why the government is interfering in the affairs of the Kashmir Press Club. So I'm going to start off the podcast by talking to Shuja ul Haq, the ousted president of the Kashmir Press Club. So thank you, Shuja, for talking to me. What happened on the day the press club was taken over? What were the turn of events that led to the disbanding of the Kashmir Press Club?
Thank you, Prema, for calling. We have been at the managing body for last 2 years. In fact, there is a term of 2 years that everybody gets there. Our term logically was supposed to end in July 2021. However, in April 21, the government issued an order asking all the registered societies, and Press Club is one of them, to re-register themselves under new laws. There was a set of documents that was required from us, and we communicated back and gave all of those documents, including our certified audits, etc. And the government kept on, working on it. The process took a lot of time, and in the meantime, since the press club as a society was still being re-registered, so we had no option but to hold on. Finally, in December 21, in fact 29th of December, there was an order that was issued giving us the registration of Kashmir Press Club. So within a few days' time, obviously, which was mandated by law, we called for elections. It was January 13 when we issued the notification for elections. And to our utter surprise, the very next day, there was an official communication again asking for, in fact, telling us that our registration, which was just given about a week back, has been put on hold. It was surprising for us, and it certainly, meant derailing the election process that we had just set in motion. If that wasn't enough, the very next day, on 14th, 15th, a group of journalists, they came in and they, sort of in their own statement said that we are taking over.
So when you say a group of journalists, how many journalists were there? And there were also several reports in the media that there were armed policemen, there were CRPF personnel. So if you can put it in terms of numbers, how many journalists were there? How many police personnel were there? Were CRPF personnel also involved in this? Was there an involvement of the government, a direct involvement of the government in this entire scenario?
Well, Prema, the day the takeover sort of quote unquote happened, a lot of journalists were also present there, and when they saw this happening, they clicked pictures, they interviewed those people who had come in. In all these pictures and videos, one can very clearly see that there were policemen also in uniform there. In fact, outside the club as well, there were paramilitary forces deployed. Though there has been no official communication in this regard, but one can only assume that if the paramilitary forces or police force was present there, then certainly the administration had a know of know-how of what was happening. We are more concerned of the fact that now the government has shut down the premises and they have officially taken back the building. You know, Kashmir is a place where shutdowns often happen. This was the only place which would function, round the clock, no matter what, for journalists.
So, the J&K administration had issued an official press release in which they have said that the Kashmir Press Club as a registered body has ceased to exist and its managing body too has come to a legal closure on 14 July 2021. That's what you've said. The date on which its tenure came to an end. Now the question is, why did the Kashmir Press Club as a registered body cease to exist on 14 July 2021 and why was a re-registration of the Kashmir Press Club put on hold?
Yeah, that's the question that even, we are asking. The government asked for a re-registration, not just for Kashmir Press Club, for a lot of other societies. And it did not, tell us that our society is ending. They, in the notification said, please file these documents and we will re-register your society, which we very duly complied to. So, what I understand from this is you had applied for re-registration in the first week of May 2021. Yes. And the Registrar of Societies issued it on December 29th. Yes. But on January 14th, it was put on hold. And the government has quoted a police report from the J&K Police's Criminal Investigation Department. Now, they are talking about an adverse report. What is this adverse report all about? Was it so difficult to find out what these adverse reports were? Why were they doing what they were doing? That's something that has baffled us. 29th of December is the day when the government has given us a certificate after all our antecedents were checked by the same Criminal Investigation Department. The file has gone through them. They have okayed it. And then only the Registrar of Societies has given us a certificate. So if on 29th of December our antecedents were not adverse, how come within a week the same department is saying that they've found something wrong against us? Yeah. Now, the government has said that you have not been able to hold the elections to constitute a new managing body. Now, why did you delay holding the elections in the first place? Because that could have cleared a lot of problems. Unless our re-registration was complete, we couldn't by law have hold any election, because as per government themselves, we had no body. We had no society. Elections happen for a society, right? So the government has said that some individuals of the erstwhile club have been committing illegalities on several counts, least of which they are saying is a false portrayal of being owner-managers of an entity which is no longer in legal vogue. So how do you really want to respond to all these allegations? I mean, all that I can say is, if there is any illegality that is being pointed out, please come out and prove it. So what is your next course of action going to be? We had constituted an election body as was mandated by the rules of this club. And the rules of the club suggest that the moment an election committee is announced, the next steps for going forward and holding elections are to be done by them. And we would hope that the elections for this body are held again, so that a representation comes up again, which has no questions been asked, and then it would work towards the welfare of the journalists. Thanks a lot, Shuja, for talking to me. You're welcome, Prema. That was Shuja ul Haq, the ousted president of the Kashmir Press Club, who has said that the Kashmiri journalists have lost their voice, and it seems the government definitely had a role to play in the takeover of the Kashmir Press Club. Now let's speak to Saleem Pandit, the man who led the coup. Saleem Pandit, who was a founding president of the Kashmir Press Club, is accused of barging into the press club with armed policemen, and he took control of the press club. Let's get a word from Saleem now. Thank you, Saleem, for joining me on this podcast. The accusations against you and some other journalists is that a dozen journalists barged into the Kashmir Press Club and declared yourselves to be the interim body. Now, whatever be the provocation, the question is, taking help from the police and CRPF and barging into a press club and taking control over the press club, is this right? Why was this done?
I have objection to the word allegation, because I have barged into. because barging means that I'm not a trespasser, I'm not an outsider. I am the part of the press club because I am the founder member of, the founder, president of the press club. I have established press club,
Whatever be the case, my question is, even if you are a former president of the press club, and even if you're the founding president of the press club, all that is fine. But does that give you the right to take over the press club? To just barge into the press club and call yourself the interim president and call your band of journalists the interim body? That cannot be justified at all.
So they were supposed to hold elections or announce elections by 15th of July. They should have announced the elections, the date of elections.
Yeah, so the thing is that first they had given, these people had applied for re-registration in the first week of May. And then the Registrar of Societies issued it on December 29th. And within 2 weeks, they just put it on hold.
I don't know that is between government and this CID department. I told them, since this has ceased to exist, because we have not been given registration, let us go afresh. We'll go with fresh faces. We'll give them another names, 7 names. They were required to give 7 names for the registration. I told them that we'll give 7 names, new names and new faces. Thereafter, we'll get this no objection from this CID department and give it to the Deputy Commissioner, and he will communicate it to Director this Industries, who is the registrar of the societies also. So we'll get it, and thereafter we'll hold elections. They never wanted that. I told them that you just give us either give us make us interim body, or give us simply this application. We'll do it, application of our own. Provide new names to the registrar. No need, you just run it. But they were doing what they were doing.
On what basis can they give interim body to you? Because they were the elected representatives.
No. They have ceased to be because their term had expired.
I'm just saying that when you say that they are not the rightful authority, they may or may not be the rightful authority. But they not being the rightful authority doesn't give you the permission and doesn't make you the rightful authority.
Okay, it's agreed. As a member, as a simple member, I have the right to go and tell them that give it to. I told them, when some people questioned me there, I told them, okay, you hold it. You come and take it and go and apply afresh for the registration. The point is, for 2 years, they had not done anything for the press club, nothing for the journalist welfare, nothing for the press club. They were only concerned about if some stone pelter or a militant was killed or taken by the police, they were issuing statements. This is not our job. Our job is simply to concentrate on the journalist welfare. On
the day when this happened, the question is why did you have to go with police personnel and the CRPF?
No, I never did it. It was a Photoshop. I know this was a COVID curfew weekend. There was COVID curfew outside. They just intermingled this with this. These people are very cunning people. I'm sorry to say like that. They are all pelters. You can check it from the Kothiwar police station.
Not a single person, because there are many journalists who had seen police personnel and CRP.
No. Listen, I will reply. No, listen, I have 2 policemen because I am on the hit list of Pakistan. You know that. Because after Shuja Bukhari, my name was on that WordPress, which is being run by them. So they have given me 2 police walas to guard me and protect me. Okay, they were with me simply, and they would not have done anything. They were just simply sitting outside. They just connected the curfew with the Photoshop. By resorting to the photoshopping, they did it. That made it like as if I had come like a journalist Ziaul Haq and just had a coup and took over this press club.
No matter what justification you give, no organization or no group or no members can suddenly get into a press club and say that we are the interim body. If this starts happening in our states and in our parliament and in other places, then what happens?
No. I will question you like this. Tell me, if Prime Minister of India tomorrow his term gets expired or ended, and is it anything like that he will continue till he will find anybody else? It is not his duty. It is the president's duty. It is the election commission of India's duty to give him interim this relief.
What was the provocation? Because just a day after the press club said that the elections will be held on February 15th, the very next day you barged in along with...
Who were they? No. They had lost that right. No, ma'am, listen to me. They had lost that right.
But you said elections are not being held and they are saying that, okay, we will
hold elections. They announced elections only when they knew that he is going to come and take over.
See, at the end of the day, you went into the press club and you took over the press club and you said that your body is going to be the interim body. Now, I want to know that for all of this, did you have the support of the government?
No, not at all. They never knew it. I never had any interaction with any of the functionaries of the government that you should take it over so that we will do this and that. They must have got even annoyed. You have read the press release, what the government has released after we did it. Yeah. They barred both the groups, the rebel groups.
While all this is happening on one side, some say that you have been giving enough fodder to Pakistan. Pakistan has been running propaganda against India on the new developments. You think this entire move could have been avoided?
What does that mean? Ma'am, tell me one thing. If it happens in every country, no country wants it like that. Nah. If they pass act against their own journalists, look at their own journalists. What they are doing to them? What has happened to that Mir? They have just shot him 3-4 times. They have attacked him. His family is in exile in England. They have recently passed some act against the press. Why should Pakistan dictate terms to us? And they told, basically, ma'am, let me be very clear. I am telling you, the strings of this press club were lying somewhere else. I am telling you very honestly.
Whatever you may say, it still doesn't give you the right to take over a press club.
I never said like that. I have not taken over. Nah.
Because you said that you're an interim...
No. Listen. I am telling you. I simply wanted to just set the things right and give it to them. Because I told them that we will go for a registration. With new faces, they will give us. Because we are not involved anywhere.
All I can say is we can agree to disagree. Thank you, Saleem, for talking to me. So Saleem Pandit has justified his actions. He has said that he took over the press club because the existing body didn't have the right to continue managing the affairs of the press club. He also made some startling comments about the Kashmir Press Club being controlled by vested interests, and he has said that the government was not involved in the takeover. Let's now get a word from Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, the Secretary of Editors Guild of India. The Editors Guild of India has issued a statement against the takeover of the Kashmir Press Club. Now over to my conversation with Sanjay. Thank you, Sanjay ji. Thank you for talking to me.
Please.
Yeah. So I spoke to both the factions in this case. I spoke to Shuja ul Haq, the ousted president of Kashmir Press Club, and then Saleem Pandit, who carried out the takeover. Before we get into what they said, I wanted to know from you, where does the Editors Guild stand in its position as far as the Kashmir Press Club takeover issue is concerned?
I mean, we have been very clear from the very outset. We issued 2 statements, one yesterday and one a few days back, that there was no need whatsoever to allow armed presence, the police with the gun-toting, policemen in the premises of the club. If there was any issue, it should have been sorted out amicably, rather than the state intervening and in certain ways shutting down the space. So, if you look at the process, first of all, that premises were registered and then re-registered, and then the process had begun with the whoever was heading the committee to hold elections, but that was all overruled, and the state decided that they needed to get into the act. They got hold of their favorites and decided to overturn everything.
Now, if you look at the background of the case, the government, like you rightly said, the government asked for a re-registration of the press club, which was complied to by the ousted body. They had applied for re-registration in the first week of May 2021. Then the Registrar of Societies issued it on December 29th. But the government on January 14th put it on hold, citing that there was an adverse report from the JNK CID wing. The question is, on December 29th, the government said that there were no adverse reports and you can get your registration. Within 2 weeks, they just changed their mind, and then the takeover also happened. If you put 2 and 2 together, don't you think the government cannot now wash their hands off from this issue and say that we are not involved in this mess?
No, there is a certain amount of arbitrariness which is at display where the government is concerned. In every way, they have conducted in Kashmir Valley, especially so after the change in the status of Jammu Kashmir post August 5th, 2019. This is a case where I think the government decided that press club is a nuisance. These guys collect here, exhibit a certain kind of freedom which is unacceptable in these circumstances, and they just try to shut it down. And that is what is worrying. I mean, how can the state decide that you will not have a press club when it had been functioning for the last few years? And it was also a place where many of these journalists would come and work, because the internet has been very erratic, and there were circumstances which had been created which made it difficult for journalists to be working from home.
Shuja ul Haq has said that because there was police presence and CRPF deployment, it is obvious that the government was involved in the takeover. But Saleem Pandit, on the man who carried over the takeover, he has said that there was no police presence and it was his security personnel, his bodyguards that were present. And he also went a step further and he has said that the ousted faction photoshopped images to show to people that there was a connivance between the government and these journalists who took over the press club. How do you want to react to all of these conflicting statements?
This suggestion that the police was didn't get in is actually contradicted by his own assertion that he actually took his own security guards inside, and nobody else has security guards except him. Why was he using the police security guards? He should have left them behind before taking over. Surely it's a display of muscle power and police, you can say, authority in some ways to do it. And why did the state decide to take all those steps? I have never heard. I mean, this is a dry run for doing something similar in the rest of the country.
Yeah, now Saleem Pandit has said that the strings of the Kashmir Press Club lies elsewhere, almost indicating that the ousted journalists were being remote controlled by vested interests and anti-national elements. The Kashmir government has also issued a press release and they have said that the ousted body had committed illegalities. Do you think the government, first of all, should not get involved in the affairs of the press club, which is a body for journalists? And if there are illegalities, then they should file a case and prove it in the court of law.
I think there were ways to sort the matter out, to resolve it. There was no reason that it should have gone to such an extent. The matter could have been resolved if there was an election. Election should have been called. This is the process that has to be followed by a registrar of societies. What is this purpose of taking away the land? They could have probably got a receiver to oversee the entire electoral process. That is how it happens. Not the way this, high-handedness that they have displayed. There were 300 members. It was not a small club, the only little space where people used to experience media freedom. And you have taken that away from them.
So in the last many years, we've seen slowly one after the other, Kashmir has been losing its voice. The trade unions have vanished. The elected government vanished. Civil society groups have disappeared. Do you think with the largest journalist body, that is the Kashmir Press Club, also with the Press Club also losing its voice, do you feel that the voice of the Kashmiris are being stifled more and more?
I think this has been a continuous process. If you look at it, what you're saying is very visible. And the tragedy is that it doesn't get a response from the rest of the country in a manner they should. And the manner in which this entire state has been tarred and painted and photoshopped by the authorities as a place where anti-nationals are residing, and people who have no interest in this country are the ones who are causing trouble. So they pretty much, set the narrative in a manner which kind of has some kind of resonance with their supporters, which is totally wrong.
On one hand, while all this is happening, Pakistan has been reaping benefits of all of this, and Pakistan is using all of this as propaganda against India. Pakistan has now called upon the international community, the United Nations, and international human rights and humanitarian bodies to hold India accountable. What do you have to say to that? Fishing in troubled waters?
Pakistan is going to benefit, anybody would benefit, the opposition will benefit if you start behaving in this high-handed manner. If you stick to the law, if you're absolutely, respecting the constitution, and you carry on doing what is expected of you in a society which claims to be law-based, then no trouble is going to come to you. Why do you give opportunities to your enemies to fish in troubled waters. There's no business they should be doing it.
Yeah, now that the press club is closed, do you think restoring the registration of the press club and facilitating the election process is the right way forward? And who should take this initiative now?
No, it should be there should be an ad or something where the registrar of society should say that we want to initiate the process, and they should appoint a receiver or some entity, some retired high court judge or somebody who should oversee the election and get on with it. And what about land? Land has gone back to what is it called, the Department of Estate. So that process has to be started again, because now you don't have a property where they can go and conduct themselves. So many things have to happen.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you so much.
So it is rather clear that the only way forward is that the Kashmir Press Club needs to get its registration back. Elections must be held and they must get their land back and democratically elect the next managing committee members of the press club. The government must maintain its distance from the affairs of the press club and only intervene through a legal route if there are violations or illegalities. With this, we come to the end of this podcast. I hope this was informative. Thank you for joining me on this show.